George Wiseman, this interview has been a long time in the making. Ever since I got your AquaCure in November of 2021, it became my most prized possession, and I'm excited to have you on the show to talk about it today.
Yes, I tell people if I lost everything, it'd be the thing that I'd try to get back first. The gains have been amazing, and I never expected them.
Let's start off with your background, and before we even get into that, let's do what I do with all guests as a quick warm-up. What unusual or non-negotiables have you done tonight for your health and performance?
I try to get a little bit of exercise. I eat right as far as that goes. Mostly dried fruit and nuts and stuff. I actually have right here beside me that I keep. So when I'm at the computer and stuff, I can just grab a handful and and eat that. Generally, I'm trying to just stay in shape, stay good. I'm 63 now, and I'm feeling as good. I'm actually stronger than I was when I was 45.
Wow.
So I'm doing pretty good, I think.
Good for you. And I'm surprised in your list of non-negotiables or unusuals that Brown's gas, which we'll discuss what that is in a second, didn't make the cut.
You're right. The Brown's gas would be number one, and then everything else. I don't do very much unusual each day, except I guess my whole life is kind of unusual.
Yeah, I mean, even your background, you started off, I guess you didn't start off, you are an alternative energy researcher. And then as you discovered Brown's gas for energy purposes, then you entered the health world from there.
I started my little business installing what then I was calling the Carborator enhancer. And I had bookings 6 weeks in advance, people lined up out down my driveway installing these things. So I got a lot of practice installing them on a lot of different vehicles. And I was actually approached by one of these companies that late night companies that say that sell things, you know. Yeah. And when I explained exactly what it was all about, they decided they weren't interested because it was $15 a parts from a hardware store that anybody could go to a hardware store and purchase and install. And they needed something unique or patented or some way to control this. And so I thought about that for a little while, and I thought, you know what, I'll just make a manual. I have too much business. I can't install all these things. Yeah. So I'll write a manual and tell people how to do it and sell a little kit. And I did that. And that's how I started the Eagle Research business back in 1984. So then I've been a self-employed inventor ever since with my alternative energy, and I've had a lot of fun. But it all started with the Carborator enhancer back at that point. Now, to continue getting more into what's happening today, because I was in the fuel saving business, and I also learned about this stuff called Brown's gas. Now, originally, I learned about Brown's gas because theoretically you could weld tungsten to plastic. And I thought, and as an inventor, I'm always building things so that aren't on the shelf. So I have to learn about welding techniques and assembly techniques and materials and stuff. So I thought that would be a great thing to have in my shop is something that could have those capabilities, which it can't do, by the way. That was a myth. Okay. But it queried, and it turned out that they would build one for me for $300,000. So I thought that was a little out of my budget.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So as an inventor, then I just went and I learned everything I could about Brown's gas. I already knew about electrolysis and hydrogen and what have you. So I developed my own electrolyzer based on my alternative energy research, because at that time I had developed what I call a capacitive power supply and such. And it turns out the capacitive power supply was a perfect fit for a Brown's gas electrolyzer. And when I put all this together, I ended up with a machine that I was selling for $3,000 to recover my costs and research and development costs and what have you. And I had one in my own shop now. And it turned out that when this machine was tested against what they were calling a $300,000 machine, it was twice as efficient. In other words, it made the same amount of gas with half the electricity. It was half the size and half the weight. And it was also more manufacturable than the one, which I'd never seen the other one up until that point where they were tested in the room side by side together, because I couldn't afford it. And so it was very interesting. I did well. Yeah. A pat on the back. Now, the second thing was I also at the same time learned that Brown's gas could work as a catalyst to increase the combustion efficiency of internal combustion engines. And it turns out external flames as well. There's a lot of information on that. But in the meantime, I had developed this torch, what I call the water torch, which was an electrolyzer that could make enough Brown's gas to fuel a normal acetylene torch with Brown's gas instead of acetylene. And one of my customers who had one of these ER1200 water torches had a melanoma on his forehead. And skin cancer is nothing to fool around with. But he took a cotton ball and he put it in a plastic cap and wet it with water that he had bubbled Brown's gas through. I have no idea why. I have no idea why. I don't think I would have ever thought of something like that. Okay. And he put this bubbled water on his forehead, just taped the cap on and changed out the water 3 or 4 times a day, several times a day. And in 3 weeks, his melanoma was gone. And he wrote and told me about this. Now, he didn't have any pictures, and I didn't believe him. I didn't say that to his face, and I didn't. And I also, as the open-minded, not so much inventor that I am, but I put this out as a potential use for the Brown's gas, a therapeutic use for the Brown's gas. And so that was in 1996, and it was one of the first times that anyone had ever heard about using Brown's gas for health. So, but it was rather dramatic. And then, so I put that out, and people who had bought both my Heiser systems for vehicles and the water torches started using this and getting back to me for health purposes and getting back to me with testimonials. It was, and some of them were quite amazing. So by 2005, okay, so this was 1996, 2005, they convinced me to try it myself. So here I am, I'm the guy who invented the gas. And they admit, oh, geez, do I ever feel stupid now? But in any case, I decided to build a tabletop electrolyzer. In fact, I had already built a tabletop electrolyzer so that it could fuel a micro torch. So that instead of a great big torch, it was a micro torch. So I converted that, what I call the ER50, over to inhalation purposes so that I could inhale the gas. Now, I was thinking about doing it, but in 2009, my late wife got really, really sick, really, really sick. And so I became, over the next few years, a 24/7 caretaker, and all my research essentially got put in storage, and my business almost failed, and we went about $300,000 in debt and what have you. When you're sick, it costs a lot of money. You can't make money, and it costs money. Yeah. And that's what happened. So I was in a pretty low state by December of 2015 when I got a video from one of my customers that had been promoting this inhalation thing. Now, sorry, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit there, but in 2005, I started drinking the Brown's gas bubbled water myself. From 2005 to 2007, I never got sick. I used to get a lot of colds and flu in the wintertime. So that was really significant to me. And of course, I didn't have any bad effects or anything from it. So I said, okay, it's safe to bubble this. And I sold a whole bunch of probably 2,000 ER50 machines so that people could bubble water. And then the testimonials really started to pour in because a lot more people could afford a machine for, it was less than $1,000 rather than the $3,000. And at that time, it was up to $5,000 for the ER1200 water torch. I started selling machines that people could bubble. And then people started to ask me, could we inhale the gas? And I'm used to the gas being an explosive gas, a combustible gas. Yeah. I used it in internal combustion engines. I used it in torches. I knew how flammable and explosive it was. And I was thinking if you're inhaling an explosive gas, that would not be a good idea. Mm-hmm. So I told people, no, I was wrong. Again, I was very, very wrong. And I paid a heavy price for it. We'll get to in a minute. In December of 2015, a customer sent me a video of Epoch machine. That's an Asian manufacturer of small Brown's gas machines that was sponsoring what's called a hydrogen bar, where people could walk in off the street, like we buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks or whatever, and get a hydrogen treatment. And it was doing gangbusters over there, but they were inhaling the gas, and it was Brown's gas. And then I realized how stupid I was. I call it expert syndrome. When you don't see the forest for the trees, whatever. You don't see some things because you're so used to seeing things a certain way. Okay, so I realized at that point that when the gas is coming out of the torch, which I knew, within a quarter inch outside the torch, you can't ignite it because hydrogen diffuses in the air faster than any other gas in the world, and it diffuses to what's called the under the lower combustion limit. If there's less than 4% hydrogen in the air, it can't burn. Okay, so as soon as it diffused in the air enough that it was under 4%, it was non-combustible. And I realized that if you control the amount of gas that you're inhaling with the other large volume of air that's going in, you're inhaling less than 4%. And by this time, there was a couple of studies out that were doing with animals and things like that, and they were doing a 2% gas and finding it very therapeutic. So I decided, okay, it would be good to try to inhale the gas. But at this point, like I said, I was 24/7 caretaker. By this time, my wife was blind and had lost most of her hair and was so weak that I had to carry her to the toilet. She couldn't even roll over in bed without assistance. I couldn't be away from her for more than a few minutes at a time, just to go get food or whatever the case may be. I did all the cooking and cleaning and what have you. So that it was a very tough time for both of us. And I don't want anybody to have to suffer like that, because it isn't only the person. More than once she said, leave me, just leave me. I see how I'm destroying your life, but I couldn't do that. It wasn't in me. I couldn't. So it was March of 2016 when she died. And at that point, it was really, really low. I was deeply in debt. I'd lost the love, and I just couldn't. I really didn't care too much anymore about living, to tell the truth. Yeah. So at that point, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this inhalation thing, because if it explodes in my lungs or whatever the case may be, so what? I didn't really care. So I videotaped myself, though, because I felt for posterity, if they found this dead guy on the couch, they'd like to know why. And that video is up on my YouTube channel, and people can see me inhaling for the very first time. And I inhaled for 15 minutes that time, and I didn't sleep all night. I was absolutely wide awake, alert. And that is very disconcerting for me. An old cowboy, I could fall asleep against a rock. And any of my wives would tell you, I just fall asleep on the couch at a drop of a hat. I was wide awake all night, no problem whatsoever staying awake. I couldn't get to sleep. So that was disconcerting. So after that, I started inhaling in the morning, so that by the time it got to be night, I could go to sleep. And then after a few months, I decided to try to inhaling at night, and it was fine. My body was used to the hydrogen then, and it was good. But anyway, so I recommended that people could inhale it, because after a couple of months, I not only saw that it was safe, and that I also started to discover the therapeutic value of it. I was inhaling just to see if it was safe. I thought I was healthy. I was living with a whole bunch of ailments that I had. I just thought this was what you lived with. Yes. For example, I had arthritis in my hands, and I was losing the flexibility and strength, and it was painful. And that's completely gone. I was having neuropathies. I had lost the feeling in the palm of my left hand. It started down here, and it was just creeping up, and I was thinking I was going to lose the use of my hand. Totally back. I'd lost the feelings in the fronts of my legs. They never did figure out why that was, but again, in a few months, the feeling came back. The first thing I noticed actually was my psoriasis. I didn't know that I had psoriasis. I just thought that the thick peeling skin on my elbows, knees, and feet was calluses, because that's what, when I was growing up, I had lots of calluses. And that started to peel off like a snake shedding its skin. And it was kind of disconcerting to have big pieces of my skin peeling off. Yeah. But underneath was this baby smooth skin. It just was beautiful, nice skin. So, okay, I just peeled off the skin, and my psoriasis was gone. So It was all really good as far as that was concerned. There's so many things that have happened to me, like my tinnitus only shows up now when I'm under severe stress, and it's only just a little hiss. Whereas at the time, it was loud enough, it was hard enough for me. It was hard for me to hear people speak, and now it's almost nothing. I don't wear glasses anymore. I do carry them with me because my driver's license says I need them. So if the cop comes up to the window, I can have my glasses on. So. But yeah, if you look at the video that's on my YouTube channel, you'll see that my mustache and beard was totally white at that point back in 2016, and you can see it's darkened. You can't see the extra hair that's grown because I keep it short anyway, but and it doesn't show up too much in a video, but even my hair is thickened and gone gray again instead of the white that it was. Shoot, there's just so many. I'd have to go look at a list because I can't even remember now. And just to back up a little bit, what happens, I've discovered, from when you have a hydrogen deficiency, it's essentially a nutritional deficiency, and your body knows how to survive. Our bodies are amazing. So what happens is hydrogen is by volume, our bodies are 62% hydrogen, 24% oxygen, 12% carbon, and 2% everything else. So when they're concentrating on nutrition, they're saying about vitamins and minerals and everything and trying to concentrate. That's the 2%, not the 62%. Okay. Yeah. So if you're deficient in hydrogen, and there's reasons why everybody is deficient in hydrogen these days, pretty much. The first thing that happens is your body shuts down extraneous systems that it doesn't need immediately for survival. And the first one that goes is your regeneration system. So if you have a scar on your body, you are hydrogen deficient, because what happens is your body just patches a wound rather than actually healing it, having the stem cells and stuff, your regeneration system. Mm-hmm. So the next thing that happens, if you still don't have enough hydrogen, is the immune systems start to shut down. And you have various immune systems in your body. And I had warts, hand warts, and a plantar's wart, and those are a virus. And my immune system never got rid of them in 50 years. I had them since I was a child. So wow. And I also had scars from when I was a child growing up on the ranch. And then the third thing that happens, if you're still hydrogen deficient, is your organs start to fail and you die. And I'll get back to that in a little bit too. But in my case, when I started inhaling the gas, I had a physical done some months later, and I told the doctor that I had a heart murmur because I'd had a heart murmur all my life. And again, 50 plus years. And the doctor says, no, you don't. Really? So a heart valve that I'd had, a weak heart valve all my life, had strengthened enough that it was gone. It was, my heart had healed. So the organs start to heal. The next thing, actually, I noticed this first, was my warts disappeared. Like I had hand warts and a plantar's wart, and I suddenly noticed that they were gone after a few months of inhaling the gas. So obviously my immune system got strong enough to get rid of viruses that I had for over 50 years. Wow. And then I suddenly, as I was looking at my warts and various things, I realized my scars were gone. My skin had healed so that the scars I had, the first scar I noticed, I had about a half-inch square scar on my forehead where I'd been being stupid under a vehicle with a air wrench, and I put a socket on it that was a regular socket and not an air wrench socket, and it wiggled, and I saw it wiggle, and then it just hit me in the forehead hard enough that it just split my skin open. yeah, it was blood everywhere, but it left a good-sized scar. And I had scars all over my body from similar stupid things that I had done in my life. And they're all gone. All my scars are healed. It's crazy. The skin might still be bent in that direction. Like there used to be a scar on the tip of this finger. It's not all the way around, but the scar is gone. It's just left the indentation kind of thing. So my regeneration system came back online. I was able to get rid of the scars. These are all amazing things that was going on. So to continue, as people were inhaling and I started getting all these testimonials back, something extraordinary happened that laid me out again as badly as I had originally been when my late wife died. It turned out that about 10 days before she actually died, we found out the true reason that she was so ill. She had a severe form of lupus. So for 10 years, she battled this disease, and the side effects finally killed her. It was pulmonary edema that killed her. A woman got back in touch with me who also had lupus. And she said that in 3 weeks' time of inhaling, her lupus symptoms were 100% gone.
Wow, 100%.
100%. Her symptoms were totally gone. And I realized that I had in my shop since the late 80s the thing that could have cured my late wife if I had just listened to everything that has been taught to me all that time.
Wow.
So I picked myself back up and I swore I would do my damnedest to make sure that I would help as many people as possible not have that kind of experience, to have to go through a decade of degeneration. And I am doing everything I can to help as many people not go through that experience as possible. It's something that I have to do. And at this point, it's what I do because of that. I don't need to do this. I have a good home. I have everything's paid for. I have investments. I have everything I need. I could retire. I could live on a beach somewhere. But I'm driven to do this. I'm driven to help as many people as possible. I did get remarried. It worked out really well. But she pointed out that the machine, the ER50, was since it was built out of PCV tubing and stuff, that most women wouldn't want to have it in their house. And women were one of the most important people I wanted to help. So so I looked around and I found this Chinese chassis Ving machine, and I found if I renovate this Ving machine, I could sell the machines for around $2,500, which was a significant savings, and I can help more people. A lot more people have $2,500 than have $5,000. Yeah. That's kind of why I went this way. Now, there's other people out there that are making even more beautiful machines, in fact, stunningly beautiful in some cases, but they don't have the functionality or therapeutic effectiveness or safety of the AquaCure machines. Mm-hmm. So I went for function and form over looks.
George, I want to take a few steps back here because I'm sure if people are wondering about hydrogen, sure, they understand that it's 62% of the body, but how do most of us get this into our body? We need this to repair different parts of the body, yet most of us don't and have never had Brown's gas machines.
Right. Okay. First of all, we get our hydrogen from our food. Well, you can't inhale it like oxygen and get it. So what you're doing, and it's a gas, but hydrogen, if it's a free gas, it just rises in the atmosphere because it's so light and it just dissipates and it's gone. So the concentrated hydrogen that we get that our body needs comes from our food. Virtually everything is got hydrogen in it one way or another, but let's simply call it hydrocarbons. Our food is hydrocarbons. So in this particular case, what we have is our digestive system starts in our mouth, where we're chewing the food, breaking it up and adding enzymes. We swallow, it gets a bath of acid in our stomach, and that further helps the digestive process. Then it goes into our upper intestines, small intestines, where it gets the bile and a bunch of microbiome and stuff that starts to break things up. But it isn't until it gets to the colon, just before it exits our body, that the specialized bacteria that are most efficient at breaking the hydrogen off of the carbons, because the bond of hydrogen and carbon is very, very strong. And you need all the catalysts and enzymes that you can get, plus those special bacteria to break it apart. And then the hydrogen goes through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream directly. So your colon can actually breathe, almost like lungs. In fact, they are showing some efficacious where they're putting oxygen up people's backside when the lungs aren't working very well. It's one of the things that's been kind of talked about during this insanity that's going on out there these days. So in any case, the hydrogen goes directly into the bloodstream that way, through your digestive system. And that's how people would normally get their hydrogen. And if somebody's passing gas and it's stinky, well, that means you got you've got maybe methane or something like that. Methane is a carbon with 4 hydrogens around it. But if your farts don't stink, that's hydrogen. Hydrogen doesn't smell. So those people that are passing gas that doesn't stink, well, they've got a good digestive system happening. But most of us don't have decimated that bacteria, those specialized bacteria, because they're very sensitive to things like glyphosate and artificial sweeteners and a lot of the chemicals and stuff that are in our environment and that we eat. Also, one of the miracles of modern medicine is antibiotics. And how do we eat or get our antibiotics usually? We swallow them, and it goes down there and it kills the bacteria. Yes, it kills the bad bacteria, but it kills the good bacteria too. Mm-hmm. So you kind of decimate everything, and then theoretically and hopefully your good bacteria come back and the bad bacteria don't. But all that comes down to terrain and prebiotics and all that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. The point is, we are hydrogen deficient, have been chronically hydrogen deficient as a civilization for a very long time. And most of the ailments known to man are either caused by or exacerbated by lack of hydrogen. And we're discovering that there's over 1,200 studies out there now of hydrogen supplementation, and they're and every single thing they test it against, they find it works. Getting the hydrogen in takes care of virtually every ailment. So that, to answer your question, that's how the hydrogen gets into us.
Yeah, I remember back when I started looking into this, I came across research published on the Molecular Hydrogen Institute's website, and I saw that back then, this is years ago, it was already being investigated and shown to be therapeutic in over 170 different disease states.
Exactly. Tyler LeBaron actually consulted with me back in 2007, just before he went off to Japan as a medical student, and before he became a doctor. He went over to Japan because he was interested in hydrogen as a therapeutic gas. He had this intuition that it was the right thing to do. And then he went to study under a doctor who was actually working with hydrogen as a therapeutic gas. And now he's come back and is our North American expert with hydrogen as a therapeutic gas.
Yeah.
So it was very good, yes.
And when I'm traveling and don't have access to my Brown's gas machine, I will use the molecular hydrogen tablets. I like a brand called Drink HRW because they're the highest potency, I think like 10 or 12 parts per million. And I'll just add 1 or 2 of those into my water, let it dissolve until it saturates the water, and then I'll drink it quickly. But when I talked to you initially, I realized that Brown's gas is much more than just molecular hydrogen. Why is that?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. First of all, people should be getting hydrogen in any way that they can. If they can't afford the Brown's gas, even if they get the tablets, the Brown's gas machine actually pays for itself over time. If you were to be getting the same volume of Brown's gas, the tablets, you have to keep paying for them, and the Brown's gas machine you pay for once. So, and then the Brown's gas machine, you get inhalation as well. As far as Brown's gas, it isn't just hydrogen. It also contains oxygen and something I call electrically expanded water, which I discovered back in, coincidentally, 1996 as well. So this electrically expanded water is the extra therapeutic benefit of the Brown's gas because it's actually water. It's still H2O. So it didn't electrolyze. Okay, it didn't split. So therefore, it's not part of the Faraday equations. Mm-hmm. So I was getting the same amount of gas that I should be as far as the Faraday equations were going, as far as hydrogen and oxygen, but this third gas was forming out of the fluid in the middle of the electrolyzer, in between the anode and cathode, so that between where the oxygen and hydrogen were forming on the plates, there was a third line of gas built transparent electrolyzers. I could see this forming right out of the fluid. And we've got a lot more experiments and how do you say, proofs of that. But in any case, this third gas was the extra gas that was making my electrolyzers seemingly over efficient. They weren't, but that's how they seemed. Okay, so it's water. It's H2O that has extra electrons. Those extra electrons are bioavailable. The bioavailable electrons give our body energy directly when we inhale it or drink it in the water, because it charges the water as well. So and you can measure that with an ORP meter, by the way. There's been some scientific studies and what have you on that. So when you have the electrically expanded water, when you're inhaling it or drinking it, you're getting those extra electrons. The extra electrons give your body energy directly. When people are sick, usually what's happened is their energy reserves have been drained and the energy generation systems have been compromised. So they're not getting as much energy as they should in order for their body to work as efficiently as it needs to. So by drinking the Brown's gas water, you're not only getting the hydrogen, which is the building block of life, but you're also getting the energy to put that building block where it needs to be, to do something with it. You can't just have a brick. The hydrogen itself is inert. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't kill anything. It does nothing by itself. Hydrogen is just a brick. You can think of it as a brick. If you want to build it into a brick house, you have to have some intelligence and some energy to start moving things around and building it. So that's what the electrically expanded water does, is give that extra electrical energy. When the electrons disappear from the water, it just collapses. It essentially goes into a vacuum form. It goes back to a liquid state. So the electrically expanded water is the negatively charged plasma form of water. You've got four states of matter. You've got your solid, which is ice, your liquid, which is water, your gas, which is water vapor or steam, and then you've got your plasma, which is an ionized or charged gas. And the charged gas doesn't lose its gaseous form if you cool it. Like water vapor and steam, if you cool, it'll condense. But the Brown's gas doesn't. It doesn't condense until it loses its electrical charge. And in the body, it gives off its electrical charge within a few minutes. So when you're inhaling, you can actually, if you look in a dark field microscope at your blood when you're inhaling, you'll see the effects that the Brown's gas is having on the blood. And it takes about 15 minutes when you're inhaling at a 2% mixture for the blood to get fully charged. And then as you continue to inhale, it'll just stay charged. And when you stop inhaling, within about 15 minutes, that charge has dissipated in the body. And so we've discovered that it's good to keep your body charged with this gas for quite a long time, because the more you keep it charged, the more the hydrogen and electrically expanded water has a chance to seep into the tissues and right into the organs, right into the very DNA, if you will, to repair DNA and what have you as well. So wow. It's incredible. This is why people with really serious diseases, if they inhale all night, like 8 hours a day, it mitigates the diseases within a few weeks or months. People are much healthier again.
To give listeners some context, can you explain what electrolysis is very simply?
Oh man, you have good questions. Like, again, I've been working with electrolysis for almost 40 years, so I forget to explain these things.
Understandable.
Okay, the simplest explanation is that you use electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen, and that's electrolysis. There's electrolysis of all different kinds of materials, where you're using electricity to split the material into its constituent atoms. And in this case, water is hydrogen and oxygen. So when you split it into H and O, you're making hydrogen and oxygen, pure hydrogen and oxygen. So in a simple form, use electricity, charged plates, and usually a catalyst in the middle. To one way or another, they have a catalyst. Even on the ones that that don't use lye, for example, or any other liquid catalyst, they have what's called a solid polymer electrolyte, and essentially that's what they use as a membrane in the middle. And they have one plate on one side and like the cathode on one side fixed to it, and the anode on the other side. And the electrolyte in the middle is actually like a plastic, and it's solid. But there always has to be an electrolyte of some sort to catalytically make this happen.
Yeah. So then, to compare this to molecular hydrogen, would this be more beneficial? Because, to make another analogy on what you were just saying, that molecular hydrogen or hydrogen in general would be a car, and then the free electrons from the electrically expanded water would be like the gas in it, allowing the car to move.
Yeah, I think of it a little differently, but yes, it provides the energy. Absolutely. Nothing heals without energy. Now, an actual physical experiment in Germany, they haven't finished it yet. The papers aren't written up, but just to give you a prequel of this, there's an experiment where they're experimenting with what's called zebrafish. Zebrafish are transparent, so you can see right inside them. And what they do is they wound the fish, and in one fish tank they have hydrogen bubbling in, and the other fish tank they have Brown's gas, and the Brown's gas fish heal 30% faster than the ones the straight hydrogen. Now hydrogen is better than the nitrogen. Like if it's regular control fish, when you wound them, they pretty much just stay wounded. They hardly heal at all. But with the hydrogen is definitely better. There's no problem with the hydrogen. In fact, hydrogen has been used to heal people and be healthful for almost 40 years, but they didn't know it.
Yeah.
With the ionizer technologies, they were doing these things where they take the water and they split it into two streams. They call it high pH and low pH. And the high pH water was deemed to be and tested to be more healthful than the low pH water. But it turns out the pH had absolutely nothing to do with it. When they actually got around to measuring what was going on, they took water from these ionizers and they took away the pH. They neutralized the pH, but left in the hydrogen, and the health benefits were maintained. They took away the hydrogen and left the pH, and the health benefits disappeared. It had absolutely nothing to do with the pH of the water. It had all to do with how much hydrogen was in the water. And incidentally, the cathode, where the high pH was coming out, was putting hydrogen in the water. That's actually an electrolysis process that they were using. So it was making hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen was going out with the high pH stream, which all it was doing was just separating. Like any given quantity of water, there's low pH and high pH all together, and it neutralizes itself. So when you put it through this kind of an ionizer, it splits those apart so that the low pH goes off one way and the high pH goes off the other. Coincidentally, it put hydrogen into the high pH water, so therefore the high pH water ended up being more therapeutically helpful. Yeah.
When I was doing my research of the science behind Brown's gas and how this all works, I did a thorough comb over of your site, and there's a lot there, tons of resources. And I think at one point I encountered something where you were talking about how a lot of the research that's been done on molecular hydrogen might actually have been studying Brown's gas unknowingly.
That's absolutely correct. So I do have a person that did a lot of work to comb through the hundreds of studies and look for those ones that were just Brown's gas, and we discovered quite a few of them and have put some of them up on the website eagle-research.life, L-I-F-E. And so you could go and look at those ones. Those ones are Brown's gas studies that they were talking about the hydrogen efficacy, but it was actually the Brown's gas. Now, what I'd like to do is go and find equivalent hydrogen-only studies and compare the two to see if we can find an efficacy as far as historical studies have been concerned.
But how did you know that those studies were actually investigating Brown's gas and not just molecular hydrogen?
That's a good question. The reason is because I know how to build a Brown's gas electrolyzer. So I know which electrolyzers out there, my competition, my peers, whatever you want to say, are actually making Brown's gas, and which ones are making the hydrogen oxygen mixture. And it comes down to the design of the electrolyzer mostly. And so if you have electrolyzers, which I call traditional Faraday electrolyzers, they have a membrane in the middle. So the hydrogen goes out one hose and the oxygen goes out another hose. With the Brown's gas electrolyzers, we take out the membrane so that both the hydrogen and oxygen go out the same hose. But incidentally, that membrane was preventing something that I call electron bridge between the cathode and anode. And that electron bridge is what was stuffing the electrons into the water, into the H2O, that makes the electrically expanded water. So when you have a membrane, you can't make Brown's gas because you can't make the electrically expanded water. You just make pure hydrogen and pure oxygen. So when I look around at the various electrolyzers and I see the ones that have no membrane in the middle, then I know that they're making the Brown's gas.
And how is the electrically expanded water, those free electrons, those bioavailable free electrons, how is that any different than me going outside, walking on Earth barefoot?
Not very different at all. You get a very similar, anytime you can get the bioavailable electrons in you, it doesn't matter how it's done. There's people that have machines that they put the needles and use it to put a little current through parts of the body and things.
Mm-hmm.
That's another way you can get electrons into your body.
Mm.
Yeah, and there's lots of food that has high electron content in it.
Oh, cool.
Various fruits and things like that, which you get the benefit when you're eating the fresh food. That's when the food starts to get old, it loses this electrical charge. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've covered now oxygen and hydrogen, but in your machines, I think last time we talked, you mentioned there's a trifecta of gases. What's the other gas?
The electrically expanded water.
Oh, okay. It's a gas?
Yes. Yes, it's a gas.
Ah,
See, a plasma is a gas. So it's a negatively charged plasma.
I
And
see.
it just happens to be a cold plasma, not like a hot plasma like the surface of the sun, but it's still an electrically charged gas that makes it technically a plasma.
One thing I noticed when I was looking through the research on Brown's gas is it wasn't always called Brown's gas. It goes by several different names.
Yes, yes, yes. Good point to bring up. The original patents of this gas was called single ducted gas by William Rhodes back in the early 1960s. And then in the 1970s, Ewell Brown started to research it, and the gas coming out of his machines, they just called Brown's gas. A fellow by the name of Alvin Crosby in New Zealand started making gases, and he just because he didn't want to call it Brown's gas, he called it hydroxy. And then when there was a fellow in Florida, in the United States, named Denny Klein, started building his own machines. He was getting patents for them and what have you, even though it was unpatentable. The patent office is crazy that way. But he had to call the gas a different name. So at first he called it Aqua something or other. I'm forgetting exactly the name. But then the thing that stuck is a television. They did a television program on him, and he was running a vehicle on water, and he was also having one of these torches that we're talking about, where he was fueling with the Brown's gas and a bunch of other things that he was doing with the Brown's gas. So they did a documentary video on him, and he called it at that point HHO. So HHO became the overall generic term for what I call Brown's gas. And I still call it Brown's gas because even though William Rhodes initially invented the gas, and I was good friends with William Rhodes, I met him and we got along really, really well. But Ewell Brown spent 30 years of his life promoting and developing the gas and getting it out there. So I honored that as far as it was concerned. I didn't actually want to honor Denny Klein, even though he did a lot of good work, because he was kind of not in the same sort of philosophy that I have. And I just wanted to honor the guy who we would never even have known about Brown's gas if Ewell Brown hadn't done all the work that he did. There was one additional thing, something called oxyhydrogen. And if you go to Wikipedia and try to type in Brown's gas or HHO, it'll take you to an oxyhydrogen page where they say it's nothing more than just a mixture of oxygen and hydrogen, 2 parts hydrogen to 1 part oxygen, which isn't true. And even 15, 20 years ago, I was trying to correct that, I and several of my distributors. And and the editors at Wikipedia were just absolutely suppressed any concept that could possibly be a unique gas than oxyhydrogen, just a mixture of oxygen and hydrogen.
It's sad that's becoming increasingly common.
Yes.
Okay, so right here, I am holding up a glass of what looks like normal water, but this is actually water that I've generated or I've infused with Brown's gas using your AquaCure AC50 machine. And one question I'm sure that will come up is how is inhalation, inhaling the gas via the nasal cannula that I have, any different than drinking the water?
When you inhale, and I usually inhale while I'm sitting at my computer, so it's like this. When you inhale, if you inhale for 12 seconds, you put enough of this gas into your bloodstream to equal the same amount of gas as drinking a liter of hydrogen-rich water, okay, at 1.6 parts per million. And and so you get a lot more of the actual Brown's gas into you for therapeutic purposes when you're inhaling. So that's the biggest difference. And you can keep inhaling all night for hours. You could not possibly drink thousands of gallons of water, right? So these are some of the advantages of the inhalation over the much more therapeutically effective.
Yeah, and there's also a bunch of different ways of applying it. I think it has a systemic effect, meaning it travels throughout the whole body and exerts its effects. But then you can also apply it locally via either the gas or the water.
Yes, exactly. So I call it 4 protocols. There's 6 altogether, but I'm promoting 4 of them right at the moment. The first 2 are external, where you use the gas. You can put it in a cup, like a plunger or something, and or a bag, like you can bag an arm. One of the most dramatic effects of the Brown's gas is if you have carpal tunnel syndrome, and you put it like a bread bag on your arm and put the gas in there. In 10 minutes, the pain will disappear in like at least 90% of the cases.
Wow.
So that it's very, very dramatic. Like people who have carpal tunnel, it's a lot of pain, and to have that disappear, it's like a miracle.
Yeah.
And then a similar thing, if you have a rash on your body or something, and you put the Brown's gas bubbled water on it, it'll tend to mitigate that, and you can soak psoriasis and things like that. So when you apply the gas to the outside of the body, you're deciding where the gas is applied. Now, the other 2 protocols are drinking and inhaling. When you drink and inhale, your body decides where the gas goes and what it does with it. And you may have like a neuropathy or tinnitus or something, but the gas decides where your body most needs it. Like when you're doing arthritis, for example, you just put a glove on and put the gas in the glove, and you decide where it's going. But if you're inhaling, the body may decide, I want to heal the heart first and leave the arthritis alone, so you just don't know.
And the body has a lot of wisdom, so it's generally smart if you can to let it decide where to prioritize.
Right. But you can then, additionally, mitigate pain or something from the outside, or like the guy who healed his melanoma. It turns out that that experiment was relatively recently duplicated in Germany, and I have the pictures of that.
Oh.
And you can see them on the eagle-research.life website. And what happened was they put a shower cap on him and just put the gas up in there. So instead of a wet hydrogen infused water, they put the gas itself around the guy's head, which a large portion of the back of his head had psoriasis and cancer. So it was nasty looking.
Mm.
And within 3 weeks' time, it was mostly gone. And so they sent the machine home with the guy, and I never got any more reports as to what happened, but it was mostly healed in the 3 weeks' time that they were doing the shower cap thing on the guy's head.
Hmm. So I haven't told you this, but I actually, every morning during my meditation, I will apply the nasal cannula and inhale for the entirety of my session. And then I'll use that water that I generate to make my morning electrolytes. And from doing that, and then also a session later in the morning and afternoon, I probably average about 2 hours of inhalation or more per day. I've noticed a couple effects, including my energy seems to be more steady, and my appetite. I used to eat 3 huge plates every single day of food at each meal, and I never thought twice about it. And then after doing this, using Brown's gas consistently, I'm now at about 1 large plate, sometimes 2, but never 3. And so I'm curious what other effects, if someone's healthy, they don't have any serious debilitating conditions, what effects are you hearing from users and customers?
Well, that's a really good question. And it turns out that a lot of people are getting more energy. Also, you can do more. There's one chiropractor that was inhaling, and he runs marathons. And every marathon, he was breaking his own records until, at the last I heard, he was up in the top 10% of his age group. So he just was able to run faster and faster as it was going. Myself, in this house that I have right now, we were doing some work on the side that we had to take out the foundation, a portion of the foundation, which involved a jackhammer. And the 20 and 30-year-olds that were working there were scared of the jackhammer. So I worked at a jackhammer when I was in the mines. So I just grabbed that sucker and jackhammered for about 4 to 6 hours. I forget exactly.
Wow.
But and I hadn't been really doing any exercise or anything. And I thought I was going to have to pay for that big time. But nope, not a single sore muscle, nothing. There was one time I was a couple of years back, I was pounding a steel fence post. And what is a steel tube that you put over the fence post and you pound down with the steel tube kind of thing. And I sprained my shoulder because I had made just a makeshift steel tube, not a proper post pounder. I afterwards went out and bought a proper post pounder. But in any case, I had a sprained shoulder. And I'd had a sprained shoulder a time or two in my life. And I knew that was going to take at least 3 weeks to heal. 3 days. 3 days, absolutely pain-free, full function and strength.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've changed my workout routine a bit, but I find that I don't get crazy sore like I used to. The DOMS is gone. And while we were talking just now, I looked down to see some of my old scars because I realized I haven't checked those in a super long time, since around when I started, and they're actually noticeably smaller.
Yes.
Which I find surprising because I didn't actually expect to see much in terms of scar reduction since 3 months ago.
Yes. So you're starting to see it. That's good. By about 8 months, you'll see a lot less. There's a guy here that's been working here for about 4 years, and he was in a motorcycle accident. He just loves to ride motorcycles, and it took off most of the skin on one arm, right down to he had great big scars on his arm. Now that within a year or two, the scars were all gone. It was just skin, but it was he's dark-skinned fellow. It was white colored skin. It was obviously not a scar, it was skin. And now the color has come back to the point where it's hard to even see where the scars were. Even the skin has darkened to his normal color just about completely.
One thing I asked you about a long time ago when I was first getting started is, because it's a selective antioxidant, I was worried about maybe it could interfere with the hormetic effects of exercise. And I quickly realized after talking to you that no, it actually has the opposite effect.
That's correct.
So far, it seems like it can improve athletic performance. It can increase aesthetics and beauty and hair, skin, scarring, recovery. Like, it seems like it improves just about everything.
Yes. Yes. It brings the body back to health in every way that a person can imagine. Absolutely. And it was a totally accidental discovery. In fact, I had to be convinced to try it myself.
Yeah, it seems like a potent instigator of homeostasis.
That's exactly right. If you're heavy, it's relatively easy to diet and come back down to your regular weight. Or if you're underweight, again, it helps the body get more weight up. But virtually homeostasis, regardless of any particular condition. There's people with high blood pressure that when they're inhaling the gas, they can get off their blood pressure medications, which is, anytime you can get off some of these medications, I think it's better, because then you don't have to deal with the side effects, because the Brown's gas has 0 side effects.
Yeah.
As far as that's concerned. Now, there may be some side effects when you're healing, because depending on what's going on, you may have some, I call it weirdness, because sometimes it's a positive and sometimes it's a negative. Like there's people that can inhale for less than a minute, they start to get a headache.
Wow.
And there's people that can jump right in and inhale for 8 hours, and all they do is get more energy.
Are there like the detox reactions, the Herxheimer reaction have you heard of any cases of that?
Well, this is what I'm saying about weirdness. It isn't exactly Herxheimer, because Herxheimer is where like a lot of bacteria or fungi or something die, and then that it kind of like floating around in your system and causes you to poisoning, I guess is the best way to say it. Your body's not getting rid of it fast enough, those side effects. Whereas this is a different kind of a thing when your body is healing from these other ailments. But in any case, we could call it Herxheimer. It's a similar kind of thing where you'll have a negative effect. And what I'd say is just cut back. Don't inhale so much. If you can't inhale for a minute, inhale for half a minute. And then over time, you're able to get more and more. Obviously, if you're getting a headache from inhaling this gas is helping you heal something that's in your head. You need the healing. Don't stop.
But one thing to note, you did mention, and it's very clear in the instructions, when your first time, don't try it at night because of the situation that happened to you. You don't want to interfere with your sleep and be up the whole night if you have a huge hydrogen deficiency.
Yes. On the other hand, my current wife, the first time she inhaled it for 15 minutes at about 6:30 in the night, like I did, she had the best night's sleep she could remember. I kid you not. It was exactly the opposite effect that I had. And I warned her. And then she just, yeah, she does what she wants anyway.
George, we can talk for hours, and I think we will. This needs to be continued on another episode because it's already been a very long time. But if people are interested in either picking up one of your machines, learning more, discovering your manufacturing and white labeling course, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject as well. Yeah, we definitely got to get back into it. And if people have questions, if they can write me or Nick the questions when we come back at a later time, we can answer those questions. If you go to eagle-research.life, Life, so eagle like the bird, EAGLE, and then a dash mark, and then research, because I'm a researcher, and .life. That's the website I pretty much dedicated to just the Brown's gas. And when you go to buy an AquaCure there, it'll take you back to my eagle-research.com website, where I think we made a discount code for you, didn't we, Nick?
Yeah, I think the code Urban saves them 15%.
I seem to remember that. Yes, it was a while back we did that. Yes, so you can save 15% off the retail value of the AquaCure if you do that. Oh, and I should also mention that unfortunately there is an 8-week currently. Hopefully we can get that mitigated, but currently there's an 8-week back order queue, and I'm chasing that queue because people are ordering just as fast as I'm filling orders. So I call it chasing the queue, but we are doubling our manufacturing capability, and I am going to have a manufacturing course made so that we can get a bunch more people making these things. What's happening at the moment is there's a lot of what I call organic gain, where people are getting good results, telling their family and friends, and their family and friends are ordering. So it's just kind of it's just kind of growing out there. I get a little apprehensive once in a while because I'm just barely filling the orders, as the case may be. But I also, like I was saying before, I don't need this. I'm doing it to help people. So what I am trying to do, I'm making the course right now, and in 2 or 3 months I'll have the course, that anybody can buy this course and learn how to make AquaCures for themselves, and that they can make their own business selling these AquaCures. Because my goal is to have one in every home. Therefore, even in North America, we've got like 350 million people that need these. And I can't do that alone in my own shop. So if we set up AquaCure manufacturers all over the place, not only will they be able to make money at their own home and have it for their own use and their friends and family as well, but there'll be places where people can have their AquaCure serviced if necessary, and that kind of thing, because there aren't any technicians for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, back on the ranch, I learned how to make things so that they don't break. Anything that broke, we fixed it again better so it wouldn't break again. And so I designed the AquaCure so they don't break down. Not like buying an automobile where they want you to run it for 5 years and then buy another one, right? So I have a lifetime warranty on the AquaCures that I have. I guarantee them for life, to no manufacturer error. If they break down, we pay the shipping, the labor, and the parts to fix them. And I also have a 1-year satisfaction guarantee. Nobody else has got this kind of a thing. I want to help as much people as possible. So you could buy it and use it for a year and return it and get your money back. Not the shipping, but the purchase price of the AquaCure. 1-year satisfaction guarantee and lifetime warranty.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. And I like your mission to get one of these in every home. The Finns have saunas. Why can't we have AquaCures?
Absolutely. And saunas.
Yeah, and saunas. I prefer both. Maybe not combine the two, but at least have the AquaCure and the sauna separately.
got one of these little portable saunas in our house that we can just set up in different rooms if we want to.
Mhm.
A little silver covered thing. You've probably seen
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like those. So I think next time, if you're game for it, we can talk about the different products you sell. We can talk more about the modalities to use with the AquaCure, because that one has multiple options where your EC50 only has the one. We'll talk about some of the exciting changes that are coming down the line, more about your course and how people can get started, because this next conversation is likely going to happen in a couple months once you're ahead of that 8-week queue.
Yes, sounds
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. One more question before we do a rapid fire round. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
If there was a worldwide burning of the books and all knowledge on earth is gone, what 3 books would you save and why?
Oh my goodness. I have a library.
Yeah, I can see behind you.
Yeah, I had to get rid of so many books. I'm so sorry. It was one of the things I really enjoyed when I was growing up because we didn't have television, so I read a lot of books. Um, at I think the books that are most important are for me are the ones that have to do with thinking. There's one called Thinking Better that allowed a person to raise their IQ just by being able to think better. How to think. It's one of the things that they don't teach in school. They teach what to think, and you're supposed to parrot back whatever they teach you,
Yeah.
but they don't teach you how to think. And I think that people need to know how and need to learn how to think. Another one is called The Richest Man in Babylon by Edward de Bono, I think it was. And that one teaches you about money, how to deal with money. Most people don't understand the rules of money. And once you understand it, money flows to you instead of away from you. So anyone who wants to think better, the book is called Thinking Better. I don't remember the author. I apologize. Might even be out of print. I don't know. And then there's The Richest Man in Babylon. It's an entertaining story, but just like the law of gravity, even though it's 5,000 years old, this principle of money still works just fine. And the third book, well, there's various. I'd love to throw in something about health or organic gardening or.
We'll save the other 2 for the next round.
Okay.
Now on to the rapid fire round. What are you interested in and researching these days?
What I would really like to get into next is what is called the Lord's pump. It's a alternative energy technology invented by Al Throckmorton. He uses the Brown's gas as a combustible gas to pump liquid. Like I said, I'm an alternative energy researcher, and so this is near and dear to my heart. There's several other things too, but that's the answer to that one.
Oh, that's above my head for sure, but it sounds interesting. What's been the best purchase of $500 or less on your life?
Okay, well, the first thing that popped into my mind was my first wife. I didn't exactly purchase her, but it cost me no more than $300 to get her to say yes to marry me.
That is a new one. Okay, George, what's one thing that your tribe does not know about you?
They probably don't know that I'm Asperger. And what that means is high level autism.
Yeah.
I've had 30 years of therapy. I act more like a normal person, but yeah.
I would never have guessed. George, any final thoughts? If I hand over the mic to you, how would you like to wrap this one up?
I think we've done really well. I just wanted to remind people that to go to the eagle-research.life website and play around in there. You're going to have some fun. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the world out there. It's nice to look at something that's positive. Get your health. Your health is your wealth. If you're not healthy, you got nothing. If you got health, you can do just about anything, and you can overcome just about anything. And we can overcome all this stuff that's going on out there. But you got to take care of yourself first. And that's what I'm trying to help you to do.
Yeah. And from the research I've seen in my personal experience, I don't think there's many other devices out there where you push a button, you sit there, you inhale, or you drink water, and you have that many health upgrades.
Yes, absolutely. And it just kind of returns your body to what God intended it to be.
Yep. Okay. George, thank you for your time tonight. This has been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to our next round where we dive more into the different products you offer, what's coming down the line, the exciting new protocols that you can't actually speak yet about because they're still under wraps. But anyway, really appreciate your time tonight, and I can't wait for the next round.
May the blessings be.
I'm Nick Urban here with George Wiseman, signing out from mindbodypeak.com. Have a great week and be an outlier. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and hit the thumbs up. I love knowing who's in the 1% committed to reaching their full potential. Comment 1% below so that I know who you are. For all the resources and links, meet me on my website at mindbodypeak.com. I appreciate you and look forward to connecting with you. As a reminder, the information depicted in this video is for information purposes only. Please